We need to run Node.js in production without using Babel. Since we are using some JS features that are not yet supported natively by Node, we need to compile our Node project before running it in production. This is simple. We'll introduce a new script for that. Let's call it build node. Since all of the files for this project are under the lib directory, we can use the Babel CLI command to compile the whole lib directory into, say, for example, a build directory. The command is babel lib-d build. So read all the files under the lib directory and compile everything into a new directory called build. We also need to use the -- copy files option. This is to copy any non-JavaScript files as well. However, building for Node is actually different than building for browsers. The latest Node.js supports most of what we used in this project, while user browsers are likely to be still lagging behind in terms of supporting recent JS features. For example, we used the async await feature in this project, and that is supported natively in Node. We don't need Babel to do anything here when we compile for Node, but we do need Babel to compile that into something else for browsers. This means we need to introduce different Babel configurations for each target. We'll use the Babel configuration inside package.json for Node itself, and then we'll introduce different Babel configuration for Webpack. To compile for Node, instead of using the default configuration for the env preset, we can configure that. So basically, we do an array here, and we configure env with a different object. And inside that object, we specify the targets property. And that targets property is also an object for each target. And the only target that we care about here is Node. And we specify a value of current in here, which means when you compile for Node, use the current running node. So, for example, if the current running node supports things like async await, Babel would not compile that into something else. Also, instead of compiling with stage 2 presets, we can specify the list of plugins that we actually used, and we used 2 of them. We used class properties, and the plugin name for that is transform class properties. We also used the object spread operator, and the plugin name for that is transform object rest spread. So Babel allows you to be this specific about the plugins that you're actually using and what you need to compile. So let's go ahead and test this new script. We do yarn build node. And you'll notice how we now have a build directory that was compiled out of the lib directory. It has the exact same structure, but inside the build directory, all the features that are not yet supported by Node, like for example import, will be converted into something that Node understands, but features like for example async await are not compiled because those are supported by Node natively. So the build directory is something that we should ignore as well, because it's generated. If we now run Webpack to compile the React application for browsers, it's going to use these exact same settings. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to compile for the node target. I want to compile for the browser's target. And if I don't specify a configuration object for the env preset, it will assume that we want to compile all the features into something that the browsers understand. So to override the Babel settings for just Webpack, we can change the configuration that we do for the rules in here. When we tell Webpack to use the Babel loader on all the JS files, instead of just specifying the Babel loader here, we can specify an object. And in that object, we do the loader is Babel loader. However, we can pass a set of options. And in here, we can override the presets to be used by Webpack when compiling JavaScript. So in here, we can go back to just using React, env without any configuration, and stage 2 as well. So let's go ahead and test. We do yarn build Webpack. So now we're compiling Babel with 2 configurations. One configuration for Webpack, which is what we're going to take to the browsers, and another configuration for just Node.